SMS Koh Poh Koon.
Mr. Speaker, I thank both members who spoke for their support of this bill, and I totally agree with some of the sentiments they have about the challenges we face, how far we've gone, and some of the things that we should look forward in the year coming. Members of the House, however, has also sought clarifications on some issues and allow me to take the House through some of them. Mr. Lee Hong Weng asked how we can do more to encourage persons who are skeptical of the mRNA vaccines to take up vaccination to protect themselves. As previously highlighted in Parliament, the Novavax vaccine has been authorized by the Health Sciences Authority, HSA, and recommended by the Expert Committee on COVID-19 vaccination for use under our National Vaccination Program as an alternative to the mRNA vaccines. The first batch of Novavax vaccine is expected to arrive sometime in the months ahead, barring any shipment delays. Now, this will provide those who may have hesitancy receiving the mRNA vaccine an alternative, and I hope they do take this seriously and consider getting themselves vaccinated. Even though Omicron case causes less severe disease than the Delta strain, during this recent Omicron wave, the 3% of adults who were partially or unvaccinated contributed to 20% of our ICU cases, occupies 2/3 of our ICU beds, and caused about 30% or so of the mortality that we see. So they do pose a significant load on our healthcare resources. And therefore, VDS is still necessary to protect the unvaccinated and prevent our healthcare system from being overwhelmed. Once the Omicron wave has subsided, we will be in a better position to ease our measures further. COVID-19 therapeutics was mentioned by Ms. Sylvia Lim, and indeed they have been authorized by HSA, but I must explain that they are meant to mitigate the risk of progression to severe illnesses from COVID-19 infection, whereas vaccination serves as a more preventive role, go further upstream to prevent COVID-19 infection and not allowing severe illnesses to take place in the first place. Therapeutics are therefore complementary and are not substitutes to vaccination. Let me share some data, which is actually quite compelling. Non-fully vaccinated adults infected with Omicron variant, which supposedly is already milder than Delta, are up to 18 times more likely to end up in ICU and 38 times more likely to die from COVID-19 infection compared to vaccinated and boosted adults. In fact, we see that the unvaccinated children between 0 to 11 years old are at risk of multi-system inflammatory syndrome for children, the MISC, that some of you may have read about in the newspapers as well. The incidence in an unvaccinated child can be as high as 470 cases per million infections. Even for adult population of all age groups, an unvaccinated person is at risk of 1 in 10 chance of getting long COVID after a COVID infection. And it has been proven time and again that vaccination can reduce this risk significantly. So vaccination is still key to us remaining safe, both on the personal level and as a system level. Mr. Yip also sought clarification on the rationalization of SMMs that the MTF recently announced and whether they can be further simplified. In fact, as explained, this rationalization is itself a way to simplify the SMMs into just 5 key parameters. Makes it easier for the public to understand, and in the coming weeks, we should, as we see the cases continue to show a sustained decline, we can then further ease measures along these key parameters. I note Mr. Yip has actually filed a parliamentary question on the restrictions at coffee shops and canteens. So I seek the members' understanding that my colleagues at the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment will look into this and address it at a subsequent sitting. Mr. Yip asked if we might consider a shorter period of extension of Part 7 and base the extension on specific indicators. Ms. Sylvia Lim also mentioned that the control measures should be constantly reviewed and the efficacy and fitness and make sure that they are fit for purpose. I agree with her. In fact, we monitor the weekly infection growth rate, the R number, as an indication of virus transmissibility, as well as other matrices like mortality rate, hospital occupancy, and our healthcare manpower. But each variant, as we've seen in the past 2 years, has somewhat different characteristics and slightly different behavior compared to each other. And therefore, no single set of parameters can be solely relied upon, and we have to remain nimble and take all factors into account in designing any of these restrictions. As mentioned in my opening speech, we take a calibrated approach in the control measures and have made progressive adjustments to the SMMs as the COVID situation evolves. Members will certainly recall when the pandemic first started, we actually went into a circuit breaker and subsequently a series of heightened alert phases as we cautiously, gradually try to reopen social and economic activities to manage the infection risks in our largely unvaccinated population at the time. With good progress in our national vaccination efforts towards the end of 2021, our collective resilience and immunity and defense against the virus was strengthened. So we were able to ride through the wave of Delta infection without resorting to a circuit breaker again. And therefore, we have calibrated some of the measures in dealing with this virus as our own situation evolves. When this current Omicron wave hits us, our population had achieved a high vaccination and booster rate, allowing us to then continue on with our progressive reopening and our move towards endemicity without further tightening of restrictions. Such a move would have been unthinkable 1.5 years ago. And our healthcare system at that time could well have been overwhelmed if the same numbers of daily infections were to be seen at that point. So this clearly attests to the effectiveness of the mRNA vaccines and the trust and unity of our people in responding to the call to get vaccinated and boosted. Our adjustments to protocols 1, 2, 3 and the management and the maintenance of some SMMs have allowed us to ride through this wave currently without causing our healthcare system to collapse. Like members, I too hope that we can eventually dispense with the restrictions. In the best case scenario, when COVID-19 ceases to be a threat before the end of 12 months, regulations that are no longer relevant can be repealed and Part 7 can be allowed to lapse. In the opposite scenario, if a variant that can cause more severe illness take hold, the regulations under Part 7 will continue to be important for the protection of public health. Sir, a one-year extension will provide the flexibility for us to adjust and calibrate COVID-19 measures accordingly, and I thank members for their support of this amendment. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move.
Question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
COVID-19 Temporary Measures Amendment Bill.
Committee stage, what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill.
Question is that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill. As many as of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that clauses 1 to 2 stand part of the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Bill to be reported. Minister for Health.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill has been considered in committee and agreed to without amendment.
Third reading, what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that the bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. As many as of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
COVID-19 Temporary Measures Amendment Bill.